in the simplest way to describe it, you're like, okay, if I'm a supply chain company, I put on Foundry, it tells me what stuff I'm short on, and then I make sure to not run out of it so I don't lose money in the future. If it is that simple in a nutshell, even if the software is complex, why isn't it susceptible to either a regular IT department within the company, just like figuring out how to manually code that data so we know what stocks are short on supply, or a really big incumbent easily making a mock-up of it like a Microsoft or Amazon? What would
Sure.
make Palantir stand on its own 2 feet?
So it's the operating system, right? The operating system software itself is like multiple tools and stocks that you've probably seen out there. So for instance, when you look at how, and it's really a three-pronged approach, right? You have Gotham for government, Foundry for commercial, but Apollo at the edge is really what makes everything so distinct and different in the world when you look at this software together as a platform. So Apollo is the edge computing, an edge platform, edge AI, I would call it, that allows, and I don't truly understand how they're able to do this exactly, but it's able to continuously do updates on a Foundry environment real time, no matter where you're at. So like most situations where if I don't have cloud infrastructure or a cloud connection or internet connection, how can I get updates?
Right.
Right. And with doing the continuous updates, it's kind of similar to like a company like JFrog doing their I forget, their liquid deployments or whatever they call it, where it's auto life cycling the software and making sure that everything's up to date at all times and without hiccups, right? And testing before to make sure that, hey, we're not going to deploy something that's going to crash something, right? Because this has to be the most reliable platform possible when you take into consideration what they're doing with the government and all those three-letter agencies. That's another thing that gives me peace at night, knowing here's the platform for 17 years that has protected our country. I feel pretty good about their security protocols, right?
Yeah.
So I think they got security down. But what keeps them from being copied or someone else trying to do what they do is, one, 17 years of thought went into this and building it. I mean, for the first 3 years, they didn't collect a dollar. They just, they knew what they wanted to make. They knew they wanted to make the best solution that was not a consulting service, but an actual software that could help with tracking terrorists and other anti-laundering, money laundering, and other fraudulent behavior. And then Foundry comes on years later on the scene of, hey, we can take a lot of these same principles and we can help commercialize and help businesses understand data better, because ultimately that is what Gotham is allowing them to do in the field, is making those wiser decisions in combat and overall from satellites and all of the stuff that goes into it. So I don't think anyone can actually recreate that with all the patents they have. I don't think anybody's business is focused on this. Like, for instance, when you look at Amazon, Microsoft, Google, right? Those are the three companies you're like, well, they got all the money in the world, you know, throw Apple in there too.
Right.
They also have so many different segments of their company that are doing their own thing that sometimes there's very high value in a small company growing big, but staying in its lane and being the best at what it is. That is what Palantir has done. And I think their leadership is, quite frankly, second to none. So I don't see anyone, you know, they have the track record. Who else is going to have a track record with our government like they do, right? Yeah. So I don't see anyone. I mean, you look at the Ronald Reagan National Defense Forum. Karp was there. I didn't see anybody from Google or Amazon or anything else. You know,
yeah,
so,
and I also think that's because Karp has fully embraced defending Western values, whereas if Jeff Bezos says that, he gets killed by the press and that hurts the stock price. Like, it's hard for him to defend that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just think they have, I mean, with what, and what I'd say the evidence that validates this is you look at the contract extensions and expansion that have gone on through their customer base and this kind of goes back to their business model. This is the other thing that I really love about them is their business model is so dependent on their product being phenomenal.
Yeah.
Because the first two stages in their business model, they're losing money significantly, right? To help customers understand the value of the product, to tailor it to their environment, to really kind of crack the code for specific industry verticals. We see all the time on the marketing, they really do cover 40 different industries, right? And so what you're now starting to see is them modulize that, right? For modules of Foundry with like Foundry for crypto, Foundry for carbon net zero carbon emissions and footprint. You got Foundry for software supply chain. So now all of a sudden you've made it more digestible and bite-sized, that you're solving specific problems that you know exist in the world without a doubt globally. And each person, each company in those industries have the same problem, right? If I'm in supply chain, or if I'm trying to make crypto more secure, whatever it may be, there's a lot of there's a big TAM, right? So I think that they're now hitting that stride where it's more digestible to adopt the technology. And you saw that with Foundry for Builders, where they said, okay, we want to make sure that this is a platform. And one of the ways that you can get a lot of customers to jump on the bandwagon quick is if you can make it the core. And really, I think the Skywise example is what started all this, is that they saw the impact and the millions of dollars that they saved, Airbus did, with 15,000 plus employees using it.
Yep.
Why don't we help out startups who don't have the funding, who have the vision, right? They have the talent, they have the visionaries and the founder-led CEOs, but they don't have the banking, they don't have the money, and they may not have all the resources or even know how to put all the software and infrastructure together to get off the ground fast. Instead of piecemealing everything, let's help them out. We'll invest in their stock, and let's lay Foundry as the core operating system for them to build their business. And you've seen that with Wejo. You saw this with Rigetti, with the quantum compute. You saw this with Energy Vault, which is a company I'm heavily interested in to learn more about. And they're picking very important industries that are riding tailwinds into new and emerging trends that we're going to see. We're going to see things happen with crypto. We're going to see things happen with quantum compute. We're going to see things happen with health, life sciences, and more health breakthroughs than ever before, and personalized medicine. So they're not just throwing money. The media kind of made it seem like they were just throwing money willfully at any SPAC because that was the cool thing to do, and that's how they're driving their revenue and their growth. But they're picking very specific companies. Like, let's take, for instance, the DuPont Therapeutics, right? The new
deal they just announced. Yep. A new partnership.
So I haven't dug super into it. I just read the article about it. And what was really interesting was Palantir commented on why they chose them. The head of their biology and life sciences division said, DuPont Therapeutics, they do what's called biology concentrates, molecular concentrates. And I honestly don't know what that is because I haven't taken the time to fully.
It's basically taking molecules and diluting them and trying to do drug discovery within the liquid of the molecules.
Okay. Yeah. So totally different way than what, say, Schrodinger would do with physics and software, or Abcelera would do with antibodies and software and AI. So they said, and they commented that we really feel like they're doing something unique in the health life sciences field, and we think they're onto something, and we want to help them grow their business, and we want them to succeed. And one thing we can say that we've learned from history in the last 2 years, maybe 3 years, of watching these SaaS-based companies really blow up and do well so quickly, the companies that are customer obsessed and customer focused and have revenue models that are consumption based, they do very well.
Right.
right?
Especially in the beginning when they're not focused on getting profitable, but just getting a ton of market share and getting people in so integrated with their software to the point where they can't leave the software at that point.
Correct. And going back to that business model, so we go through acquire, expand, and scale. Acquire, they basically don't make any money, but they're getting to basically do a free POC, right? They're getting their forward deployed engineer in there. They're doing that proof of concept. They're getting it deployed quickly and start figuring out solving problems for the customer. Then they go into the expand stage where they start really tailoring it to more critical problems in the business, other departments, expanding out to other segments. And then after the proof in the pudding has happened over these 5 or 6 months, then all of a sudden it goes to the scale and it goes company wide. And that's when they make all their money back, and their gross margins are 78%.
Yeah, it's about 80%. Yeah.
So that's pretty darn good when you consider all the money they're losing on the front end of that sales motion. And they're speeding the sales motion up, as we've seen with just the product is it's so much better now with deployment with Apollo, that they're getting through those first 2 stages. Some companies are even skipping the second stage and say, let's just sign the contract. Like, let's go.
Right. It's almost like they're consulting in the very beginning with getting them to realize how the product could help the company and giving them a couple months to really integrate it. And then it's becoming an actual sale. So like they're doing the hard work of getting you to realize how much money you're going to save. And then once you realize that, then you just buy the product because you're going to save money.
Well, and why that business model is so unique is I've really never seen it at this scale, to where, I mean, think if their product was horrible or had any kind of failures, they would never get to stage 3.
Yep.
And they would keep losing money and losing customers, right?
Yep.
But what we've seen is once they get to stage 3, all of a sudden the big contracts get signed and it's a multi-year contract. And what people forget is that, I did a video on this on my YouTube channel, was as the years go by, the contribution margin goes higher and higher and higher.
Can you explain what that is, contribution margin?
Yeah. So I wish I had the definition in front of me, but it's basically I'm going to try to rattle it off memory. It's I'm
going to look it up right now as well. It is computed as the selling price per unit minus the variable cost per unit.
Yes. So basically the selling price versus the cost of goods that it is to make that, right?
Right.
So it's the profit margin, essentially, in a way, of just that product, right? Of that service.
Right.
And so once you've done the hard work of getting them set up, you put people out there, you've consulted, you've gotten them using other, that's all money out of your pocket that you're not getting. But once you go to scale phase and you're in these multi-year contracts, you've done all the hard work. Now what they're going to do is they're going to find other ways to use this product and come back and say, can we use this for, the factories? Can we use this for our laboratory? Like I think we have other use cases here. And what you see is the expansion of the company's use cases keep growing. And so by definition, like you said, it's going to be way too hard to rip out because it's now literally the operating system of your business.
Right.
But the other piece is that it's expanding in ROI and value. Why would you leave? Right? Why you've now got a customer who's going to be reoccurring revenue. And that's the definition of software as a service, is that reoccurring, guaranteed, predictable revenue. The only way you do that is being customer obsessed and having a product that is so good, you're not going to switch. And that's what I think Palantir is.
It's almost like CRM and AWS in the early days, because CRM was like a whole new way for you to manage leads and prospect leads and then get to the close as a software for the company. And once you have a Salesforce, every company has a Salesforce that can use CRM. AWS in 2006 was like, all right, we're going to get rid of all these like physical servers and all your data is going to go to the cloud. And once your data is in the cloud, it's so much more efficient than being on physical servers. So you're never going to leave AWS. So if this cliche that we keep hearing is true, that data is the new oil, and every big company, organization, even small company, is going to have immense amounts of data to analyze. If Palantir becomes the CRM AWS of that data over the next 2 decades, it seems like they would be in every potential company in the world, like CRM and AWS are.
Yeah, Yeah, no, you're looking at it from the right lens. And I think that people are looking at this too short term,
Yeah.
right? Like Amazon didn't become a rock star stock overnight,
Yep.
right? It took 20 plus years to really see the true power of compounding.
Yeah.
That's the same thing that we're going to see, and same thing with Salesforce, and with what this company is doing. They're doing it methodically, they're doing it strategically, and they know the end game. They're patient. I love what Alex said. Alex said, hey, if you want short-term stock, ours is probably not for you, and don't invest in us. Like, go put your money elsewhere, right? Like, you're going to have to endure in some volatility, but it's going to be worth it in the end, right? We have a big vision. And so I love investing in founder-led companies, people who have visions and are committed. And you can see very similar things with him and Elon in the fact that they're only paid in stock, right?
Yeah. Yep.
That tells you the founder believes that, hey, if the ship goes down, then I should go down with it.
Right.
And so their level of commitment is very high.